to our presentation. I am Thomas Knockert, this is Ruslan Gavisov, and this is Johan Brugbaert. We will be talking about Guangxi, but first let's watch this. Can't play the video. Let's hope this works.
As Shanghai's Expo opens its doors, we'll be live to explain why 190 countries are putting their best foot forward at this site for the next 6 months. It's a snapshot of the world in Shanghai. Join me, Vishal Hussain, for live coverage across BBC World News throughout Friday.
Okay, so multinationals from all over the world have come to the 2010 World Expo in Shanghai in an attempt to expand their activities on the market of 1.3 billion consumers. So everyone will put their best foot forward and showcase the best they have. Many multinationals like Barclays and Coca-Cola have put major efforts in large publicity projects. And GM, for instance, has even built a state-of-the-art theater, giving the visitors a realistic impression of Shanghai in 2030 with all the pollution eliminated by green technology. But to make such visions a reality, all these corporations have set up entire VIP programs behind the scenes in all the pavilions of the World Expo. So by becoming, as a corporation, a sponsor of this expo, you will be able to make lots of contacts with clients and business partners in China, which will either directly translate itself into sales, but mostly is just from networking. This happens through banquets and dinings and such. But the United Kingdom, for instance, has focused exclusively on this networking, so no snacks, no souvenirs are being sold in their dandelion-looking pavilion. They just put all their efforts into trying to reach the right persons to meet and actually setting up these meetings. So this networking is the key to doing business in China. This is Guangxi. So you must understand and practice this principle if you want to be successful in China. Joran will soon explain what Guangxi is actually all about, but first let's look at the content of this presentation. So first, Joran will define Guangxi. He will talk about the most important aspects of Guangxi, and he will also explain how it works exactly. Then Ruslan will continue with the advantages of this way of doing business as well as the downsides. And then finally I will conclude by resuming all the most important things you should know about Guangxi as well as our opinion on this matter. Now I will give the word to Joran, who will define Guangxi.
Thank you. Now, what is, I'm sorry, allow me to start off with an example. In the early 90s, McDonald's started up one of its biggest fast food outlets in the capital city of China, Beijing. So everything went reasonably well until 3 years later. The Chinese authorities reportedly asked McDonald's to vacate from its site to make room for a big complex of apartments, offices, and so on. Now, after 2 years of negotiations, McDonald's decided to relocate. But how can it be that such a huge company as McDonald's loses to negotiations? The answer is Guangxi. Now, what is this strange word Guangxi? Literally translated, it means connections or relationships. But Guangxi is way more than only that. Guangxi is the way to do business in China. It's understood as the network of relationships among various parties that cooperate together and support each other. That cooperate each other and support each other. Guangxi is all about doing favors. You have to know that in China, people do business with people, not just companies with companies as in Western society. It is often said that most of the important business contracts in China are made at a restaurant or a karaoke bar. Developing and nurturing a Guangxi takes a lot of time and resources, but in the long run it's very beneficial. Building up a Guangxi is way more than what you call networking. You don't just exchange business cards. You go out with each other, you give each other gifts, and you simply get to know the person really well. As I've just said, Guangxi is all about doing favors. In Western society, when someone gives you something, he expects something back immediately or soon. But in China, it doesn't matter when you return a favor to your guangxi. And that is the beautiful thing about guangxi. Guangxi is based on a long-term relationship. So if you or your company is in trouble at the moment, your guangxi will help you out without expecting something in return immediately. Another important thing about guangxi is reputation. If a Chinese businessman doesn't know you or your company, he won't be very eager to do business with you. And that is the problem most of the Western companies that want to start up in China have. They first need to get themselves known. That was the problem with McDonald's. They were fairly new on the Chinese market, while their opponents, the company who built the complex, was led under a famous businessman, a Chinese businessman, Li Ka-shing. And Li Ka-shing has a very good reputation and a tremendous network that reaches out to the very top of the Chinese hierarchy. He finances schools, universities, hospitals, and so on. McDonald's, with their American style, didn't stand a chance. I will now leave the word to my colleague who will tell us something more about the advantages of guangxi.
What are advantages of guangxi? First thing about China is a communist country, and communist countries are famous for bureaucracy. So when you want to do business there, you have to know where to go, who to ask, and how to get things done in general. So having someone who can give you a hand, who can show you some connections and shortcuts is really important. Another big advantage of guangxi is that it can protect you. So in China, in China doing business is more informal than in Western countries. So you go to the restaurant, like Joran said before, and you drink alcohol there, and then you make some kind of speech, and you make a spoken agreement, and then you give hands to each other. So. And if you ask the other party to make some kind of written contract, they will see it as a sign of disrespect. It sounds okay in the theory, but in the reality, it's a different thing. When the same supplier, who was really nice before, supplies you with some goods which are of inferior quality than the goods you are initially ordered, you have nothing to go to the authorities because you don't have a contract or something. So guangxi can resolve that kind of business problems. Another advantage of guangxi is that you can make the use of network. Guangxi, and again as Joran said, is a network of people. So you can use guangxi to find clients, to find suppliers, to find future partners, to find possible employers and employees, and maybe even buildings. So there's a lot of advantages on the network. Another advantage, and it may seem like something criminal, but corruption is big business in China. And I mean, another advantage is facilitating bribery. But you just can't go everywhere asking, excuse me, can I bribe you? So you have to know where to bribe, where to go, and who is corrupt and who is not. And it's other way around, because the people who take briberies, they don't know you, so the guangxi facilitates. At first, it may look like some kind of magic tools, but nothing is less true. There are a lot of downsides on the guangxi. Guangxi equals person. So I mean, when you want to connect to guangxi, you have to take a person from this guangxi into your company, so he works with you. You can be working for I don't know 10 years or even 20 years, but if you lose the person, you lose the guangxi. Let's say if the person deceased, or if you leave the company, you have two options. First option is to lose your connection to guangxi. Other option is to take someone else from the same guangxi into your company. You can sack this person, because if you sack him, you will lose the connection to guangxi, and you can sack him, and taking someone else is also not an option, because nobody from this guangxi will replace this person. Another downside of guangxi is it's really difficult to connect. For us foreigners, it's almost impossible. You have to speak Chinese. You have to understand and live according to the Chinese culture. You have to live there at the place all the time. So it's really difficult. You can't become a full-time member. It's also necessary to maintain. Although you are not a really member of Guangxi, you have still to maintain your connection to the Guangxi. So you have to go to the parties and wedding parties and birthday, and you will get invitation all the time. You can't refuse it, because if you refuse an invitation, they will understood it as a sign of disrespect. So you have to go there. And when you go there, it's a tradition to take an envelope with your name written on it and with money in it, and you give it to the host of the party. And afterwards, after the party, the host will take the envelopes and he will look on the names and how much did you have. So you have always to have enough. Otherwise, it will be interpreted as a sign of disrespect again. Another downside of the Guangxi, and possibly the biggest, is the return of favors. When they provide you with a favor, you have to pay it back. It may not be instantly, but it's quite possible in China that they will come to you after a couple of years and ask for some kind of favor which really not in your best interest, and you can even lose money, but you must do it. Otherwise, they will again interpret it as a sign of disrespect, and even as a sign of distrust. You will lose your face, you will lose your reputation. And they will make sure that everywhere you go, people know that you are a person who can't be trusted, who doesn't pay his obligation. Okay, these were the downsides of Guangxi. Now I will give the word back to Thomas.
Thank you. I would like to conclude this presentation by stressing the fact that Guangxi is very important and really predominantly present in China. So any foreign investors must understand this before they should try to do any business in China. So Guangxi stands for your whole network of cooperating and supporting partners. It's about you give them a favor and they will return you the favor, and vice versa. And I would also like to stress the importance of relationships in this context, because if you have, the importance of reputation in this context. So if you have a really good reputation, it will be easier for you to extend your network. So advantages include that once you are inside of Guangxi, it will be easier for you to participate to the markets. Also, you will always be able to depend on this Guangxi when times get rough, and it's a way of avoiding bureaucracy, like Ruslan said. But downsides include that it's actually difficult to participate to a Guangxi. It's really a closed network, so it's also quite hard to maintain this. And also, because you are in a Guangxi, it doesn't always mean that this Guangxi will offer you the right persons to work with. So in our opinion, it is indeed a must that you understand the local ways and procedures of doing business. It is not only a matter of respect, but it's also actually the key to success. Although Guangxi does have quite serious disadvantages, like it goes hand in hand with corruption. You cannot deny it, because Guangxi does not only limit itself to business connections, but it stretches as far as politics. In Western society, we have the idea of an open market where business partners are generally chosen because they can offer a good price, good quality, solvability, good innovation, for instance. So the system will, the Western system will force the companies to pay a lot of attention to those factors. But in China, where relationships are so important, you might end up having to work with a lousy partner, because your Guangxi basically dictates you to do so. But one beautiful aspect about Guangxi, though, is that you will always be able to depend on this Guangxi when you're in trouble. But there's a catch, though: you must always return this favor sooner or later. So I would like to end this presentation by thanking you all for coming.
Sadly, no time for questions.